So, the MVP race has been very interesting this year. It's actually been fun, and it's coming down to the wire, but that was a big win. And that was a big win by the man who many felt was the MVP going into the weekend and certainly put a little bit more of separation. But has he locked up the MVP, Michael?
For me, I would have to say yes now, because I look at it and I say, okay, what's the likelihood of Josh Allen down the stretch here just deviating from how he's played? We are sitting here marveling at his play, not because of the great plays he made, because he's always made those great, spectacular plays, but because of the not making the mistakes anymore. And the only thing that can derail him is for him to go get out of character, because that's not his character now, even though that was his character before, to get out of character for this season. And I don't see that happen. I think that's more likely to happen to the guy that's running up right now, which is Lamar Jackson. He has to be looking at the Steelers right now, right facing. This guy has beaten the best team we would call in the AFC and the best team in the NFC. And his record is right there. And trust me, when you look at all these other candidates, Lamar Jackson, his team is capital stacked with talent everywhere. And also, you go on the other side, if you look at Saquon Barkley, his team is capital stacked with talent. Josh is doing it with the least amount of talent.
You think he's locked it up?
Man, I just gave props to Lamar and his 5 TD performance. But Josh, I mean, what he's done this year, I feel like week in and week out, he's doing just something incredible, whether it's, you know, the pass, catch, and run a touchdown, or 3 passing and 3 rushing touchdowns. But then not only are you putting up the stats, you're, like, beating the top teams. I mean, I look at the rest of the schedule. You know, you got the Patriots twice, you got the Jets, and he'll probably have to fall off a cliff for him to not win the MVP. So I really believe that he has it on lock. I mean, I guess he just has post-traumatic stress disorder and start throwing interception after interception after interception in the last 3 games, which I doubt. I think he's kind of solved his problem with that. But he's been phenomenal this year, and it's his to lose. Listen to this. In the last 3 games, he hasn't been sacked, he hasn't fumbled, and he has no TDs.
No interceptions.
No interceptions. Yeah, no interceptions. That's tremendous.
And you tag that on, you tag in
tremendous.
The last 8 games, he scored 30-plus points. Over the last 8 games, that's a never ever. A never ever, folks, is when it's never ever been done, and now you do it. Now the next time, and he'll do it again here next week, it will be the never ever. He tied it right now in NFL history. That's the kicker right there.
Yeah.
That you're putting up 30 points a game with the talent you have, and guys around you are not doing that.
And he's having games where he's rushing for a touchdown, throwing for a touchdown, and catching for a touchdown.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah, 3 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns. He's doing a lot of never-evers. I won't say it's locked up, because there are still a few games left, and this MVP race has been tremendous. I mean, what happens if Saquon goes off and, you know, has some unbelievable game? Like, it's very close right now, and certainly Lamar Jackson reminded everyone of what he's capable of yesterday. It was against the Giants, and like Michael said, Josh Allen has had big-time performances against the 2 best teams in the league, in the Chiefs and the Lions. So from that perspective, there is a gap between him and the next person. And going into the season, I said that this was a year that Josh Allen could have not only the ability to be the MVP, but the narrative to win the MVP. Because don't assess the Bills how we're assessing them now. At the beginning of the year, everyone wrote the Bills off.
Yeah, and
everyone thought the Bills were not going to be good,
right,
that they didn't have enough weapons, that they were going to take a step back. People picked the Jets to win the division, the Dolphins to win the division. They did not think that they thought potentially they could miss the playoffs this year. And not only are they potentially the best team in the AFC, but Josh Allen has done the thing that everyone has asked him to correct, which is to not turn the ball over.
And I'm looking down the stretch who he has. Patriots and Jets,
the
right?
Patriots, Jets at Patriots.
Right. I don't see where that should be a deviation from what we've seen all year, because he knows these teams. He's beaten those teams. He's 5-time AFC East champion over the last 5 years. Now, on the other hand, Lamar on the other side, you got to run into the Steelers this week, a mad Steeler team that he's had some problems with. So, yeah, I say Josh is pretty firm.
Well, the Bills do have a really light schedule remaining. They're 11-3 now. They are all divisional games, so I wouldn't be surprised if one of these went a little wonky, but
right.
It is the Patriots, Jets,
point.
and at the Patriots. Can anything stop the Bills, Paul?
It's tough to say, Joy. I mean, I think if you have an offense, which Detroit has an offense that can put up points, then you can beat them, because it's a little concerning. Over the last couple games, they've given up over 40 points to the Rams and now the Detroit Lions. That's the only glaring weakness, but you got to ask yourself, do you want to get in a shootout with Josh Allen? And he's shown he can shoot out with the best of them, but he's just throwing that ball, getting the ball downfield at will. And so if there's one concerning thing, it's the defense. And, you don't want to be having these holes in your defense this late in the year, because there are teams that can put up some points. Am I concerned anybody in the AFC? And the crazy thing about it, only one in the AFC I can see is Baltimore. Like, I don't think the Chiefs can beat them. I'm not sure if Pittsburgh can beat them or the Texans. I think Baltimore is their biggest threat.
You bring up a good point, too, Paul, because I'm thinking when we talk about you scored 30 points in 8 consecutive games, we can just extrapolate you're going to do that the rest of the season. Now, which AFC team can put up 30 points consistently?
Yeah.
Kansas City scored 21 yesterday, and we're going crazy.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. 21 points, boy. Boy, you know what I mean? So the only team, I have to agree with Paul, I was looking at AFC and said, boy, it are the Baltimore Ravens. That's the only other team that I would have to worry about. But only team I see stopping Buffalo right now is number 17. If he reverts back to the old Josh, the Josh that was throwing the turnovers. But outside of that, I don't see it. And you're right on distance travel. I thought this would be the year that they would slip and not even make the playoffs, not dominate like this. So sometimes subtraction is actually addition.
I don't think in the regular season, no, because as we just said, they have a very light schedule for the rest of the year. The Jets and the Patriots twice and the Jets is regular season, so maybe they drop one of them, but likely they'll win out against these opponents. So the postseason, though, is a different conversation. I don't actually agree, because the Bills have beaten the Chiefs in the regular season before. And maybe a better Chiefs team than they've beaten this year, but they've yet to overcome that in the postseason. I don't know. Baltimore, I don't know. Steelers, I don't know. I'm not entirely sure, because the Bills in the postseason are not the same team that they are in the regular season. They have a lot to prove now, because Josh Allen will likely be the MVP, so that's going to add another level of pressure. They have been to the AFC Championship game before. This season does feel different. I will give them that, and I feel like that's the kiss of death to say that. This is not the time. They got it figured out. But Josh Allen is playing differently than he normally plays. In a game like that, in years past, he would have given the Lions an opportunity to get back in that game. He would have forced something. He would have made some ridiculous decision that we can't explain, and the Lions would have had an opportunity to get back in it. And he hasn't been doing that. I don't know if I can just write them in to the AFC Championship game yet, because I have to see what they're doing in the postseason. And they're not a flawless team. The defensive is concerning the last 2 weeks. Yeah. They've given up the most points in the NFL in the last 2 weeks. They're allowing the most second most yards per game in the last 2 weeks. I know it's a small sample size, but it is against two really good teams. Right. So you're going to have to score that many points. Well, what happens if you're going against a team that can get some stops on you?
Right, and you made me think about that. What teams can really get some stops on this team that can score? And I start saying you got to be good on the front end and have some special on the back end. So Pittsburgh, you got a T.J. Watt on the front end, or Michael Fitzpatrick on the back end that can give you those options. T.J. Watt, that whole front, they don't ever stop coming. Now on the other side, there's Baltimore and a Kyle Hamilton back there. You got to have that talent front end and back end, because you got to control him and then watch all that's going on when he makes those extra plays. So yeah, I like Pittsburgh defensively, but I don't know if Pittsburgh, especially without Pickens, I know you can't keep up scoring-wise with Josh Allen. That's the other thing.
Yeah, but if the defense can keep it low, what does it look like? I think Kansas City, Pittsburgh, or the Ravens would be an interesting matchup for the Bills in the postseason. But, again, this might be the year that they just break through. I just think the postseason has been different for them year after year. Over to the Lions side of things, however, down 10 points with 12 minutes left. Detroit decided to go for an onside kick. The Bills not only recovered it, they returned it to the 5-yard line, then scored on the next play. After the game, Dan Campbell said in hindsight he wished he hadn't made that decision.
Right.
Oh, boy.
So, Michael, can the Lions win it all with Dan Campbell's approach?
No, and I'm worried about that because they can win. When you say at all, yes, they can win here, but they won't win there. What we're doing right now is saying goodbye. Right now, pack your bags and go home. You do this in the playoffs. It's over. See, right now, he's saying, looking at hindsight and what I'll do next time, because there is a next time.
Right.
There's not going to be a next time. And I keep saying this here. And I'll never forget, Noah would always talk about this as I tried to plan out. I wanted 1,000 yards in one playoff game. Noah says, Mike, we can't play the series. We got to play the downs. You got to play the downs when you get to playoffs because everything is so crucial. Any mistake can be, that's it, season over. So you don't go in there saying, well, what's our first 15? All of that stuff is what you do in a regular season game because you're setting people up. When you get to, you say, let's just keep getting first downs. We'll end up in a touchdown if we keep getting first downs. We want to control the ball, and you have to, in this right here, first of all, you get caught up in the hearing, that's Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell, you like that moniker, you know, your chest is out. And you feel like in order to make sure you stain the brain with that moniker, Dan Campbell, you got to gamble. And I don't mind gambling, but that's not even gambling right there. That's giving away the game.
Yeah.
Now, if there was a surprise onside, and I snuck this like they did in the Super Bowl, Sean Payton did against the Bears, and boop, they got it. Wow, that's good. But they tell the other team, hey, the surprise, the onside is coming. The surprise is out. No surprise is coming. So you take all the fat guys that was there and sit them down, and you put all the guys that can catch the pass, catch the ball, and you happen to get just what you got. Them dudes like, oh, this is my chance. I'm going to take this and run with it. And that's why they lost that game. So, yes, I love that he trusts and believes in his team. But at these places, in these games, in order to get over the hump, you cannot do this. You cannot make that mistake. And you did it last year in the playoffs. You can't do it again.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think we saw it last year in the playoffs. We saw earlier in the year when they went for it and on a fourth down play, and it benefited for them when they should have just probably kicked the field goal. But I think he takes too many chances, and he does the same thing in the playoffs. It's hard for me to trust that. You know what I'm saying? I get you trust your team can make plays and you believe in them and all, but you have to take too many unnecessary risks. Do you have to? Like, just play the game. Trust in your offense. You don't have to make this onside kick. When instead of going for 4th and 1, when you have the field goal, take the field goal. Or when they did it in the second quarter, the game before, they kicked they went for it on 4th in their own side of the side of the field.
Down in their own territory.
In their own territory. It's like, come on, these are things that can cost you in the playoffs. And then,
and you remember, and Jared fell down as he was handing the ball off and still got it off. You could have lost that game. Yeah. That's when you could have just sealed the game and you handed the ball off. And he fell down. College football, that ball dead right there. Right. That's the kind of thing you cannot do. You cannot do it in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all like an aggressive coach, right? We love bravado. We love tough guys. And, it's everyone gets excited about it. It's balls and, just run through a wall. And there's a time for that, right? There is. But to Michael's point, during the regular season, that's fun. During the postseason, you go home.
It's just going to cost them.
So you have to be able to tap into both sides. You have to have some duality. Yes, be aggressive, take risks, trust your team, have an identity. But you also are the one in charge. You are the captain of the ship. You're the one that's making these decisions. And you have to understand what the cost of it is. There's been 3 of 41 onside kicks recovered. That's 7.3%.
Right.
The odds are not even close to being in your favor that this is going to work out.
No. Right.
And even if it does, you're still extremely out of it. So what is the cost benefit here? Yes, there's a style of play that you have, and that's important. You do have to have identity. but you don't have to do it at the cost of winning games. It's the stay in the brain thing. It becomes this personality rather than it just being logical.
Right.
In the postseason, you're saying
it's
Norv
this
said
alter ego that's developed, and you want to feed it.
Who are you trying to prove it to?
Right. Who you want to feed it? Let's play solid
because
football.
the football gods don't care about that.
Because you have, and a lot of that stuff is done, I think, when you're the weaker team. You're no longer coaching from the weaker position.
Right.
You have the strong position. So be ready to fight it out. You bite kneecaps, do it all game.
Right.
So just do it all game, and you'll win the game. So that's like okay, you got it there. 7% opportunity for you to recover that. If you kick this ball off, even if you did recover it there, you got to drive. But if I kick this ball off and somehow my defense makes a play, I can get this ball pretty good field position. I'm giving them good field position right now. A few plays, they're up. Now they're up, whatever, 14, well, 10 at the time. They'll be up 13. You see me? Because they're already in field goal range. It's just you got to think through that. I think you kicked that ball off early on. And then when he should have went for the onside, he kicked the ball off later on. So it's just all the way twisted.
It is twisted. And your point about Norv saying you can't play the series, you can't play you got to play the downs to the series. You can't play the game. And he comes into the game saying, this is what we planned on doing.
Like, this is who we are.
What happens if the game doesn't go the way that you planned it to go?
Right.
You're just not going to adjust because you've told everybody that this is how you're going to play and you don't want to break their trust? How about not saying things like that? Because it doesn't matter. This is at the NFL level, it is inches, it is seconds, it is moments. And when you get to the postseason, that only intensifies.
And it's a chess match. It's a chess match. So in a chess match, I want you to think I'm going to do something that I'm not going to do. So you can make a bad decision. So, okay, if I'm coming in and I'm Dan Campbell and I'm expecting you to think I'm going to gamble, I'm going to use that to my advantage. That's the whole chess match.
Right.
That's the whole chess match. So, yeah, you got to be careful playing that match in the playoffs.
Well, back to the AFC. The Chiefs held on to beat the Browns 21-7 yesterday, but in the victory, Patrick Mahomes suffered a high ankle sprain midway through the fourth quarter and was unable to finish the game. It's being reported that it is a mild high ankle sprain, and Mahomes is considered week to week. Paul, how concerning is this ankle injury?
Yeah. That's a concern, Joy. The last few weeks, really all season, how they have been winning these games, the Kansas City Chiefs, they've been using his mobility. At least one play a game in the fourth quarter, he breaks off for that crippling run that gets them the first down when they truly need it. And look at this. They have 3 games in 11 days coming up, right? And that means there's not going to be any time to heal. And so, and they have a brutal schedule. You got Texas, Saturday, Steelers, Wednesday on Christmas, and Broncos. If they let this AFC slip out of their fingers, if they lose 2 of these games, which they very may well can. So if the Chiefs don't get the bye that first week, the ankles will never have time to heal. So that's going to be a concern. You want a healthy Patrick Mahomes, and I know he's great. He's done it before, and blase, but his mobility is a huge weapon for them. And if he's not going to be healthy going into the playoffs, you can see this. You can see KC going home early this year.
Yeah, and the concern is, Paul, when you talk about it, like, okay, how do we play it right now? If he's able to play, he wants to push it, because we've been barely winning these games.
Yeah.
It's not like we have a whole lot of room and everybody's hitting on all cylinders, and you can put a backup in there and probably produce a lot of points. You've been barely winning these games. So you can't sit him down and say, let's let him get healed and then come back in, because it's not like, you're worried what kind of offense that's going to be.
Right.
You're worried about it. So I understand their concerns. I'm not overly concerned because I've seen him play with that with an ankle issue. And some people, sometimes, it's just the more that's against them, it just seems like the more come out of them. And he just happens to be one of those guys. The more against him, the more comes out of him. And I'm willing to say, it's Willis Reed-like performance. And everybody's going to go crazy. And I was telling these guys in the media room what's going to happen here, right? He's going to come out there and play. And in about 5 years, you know, because all the stories get greater later. 5 years, it's going to be, man, you remember that game that Patrick Mahomes played with one ankle? Yeah, because they cut the other one off, put it in the Hall of Fame. You see, because this is going to add on to his legacy and how he takes over Tom Brady, because they're going to say he was winning a Super Bowl with one ankle in the Hall of Fame and only one on his body. So that's going to help him out later on. You know, I'm not concerned about this dude right here. Watch how he rise up under these kind of pressure situations.
I'm not super concerned. I wouldn't mind them sitting him this week because they have the Christmas game on Wednesday. So if they were to sit him against the Texans
and they lose, well, then what's the ramifications on the seeding?
So they have a 2-game lead. Now, Buffalo beat them, but they do have a 2-game lead on Buffalo now.
And that's the kicker, because Buffalo beat them.
Yeah, and Buffalo has the Patriots, Jets, and Patriots to finish the season.
Right.
So they have an incredibly easy schedule.
Right.
Kansas City has 3 games in 11 days.
Well,
and
you
a really
can
tight
expect
schedule.
Willis Reed to come on down out the game. Willis Reed limping. The crowd gonna go crazy, and everybody, and then Taylor Swift gonna come out the crowd and do one of them Mr. Miyagi, and that thing, it's gonna go crazy from that.
It'll be a movie. Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak, and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.